80 million people died in the Second World War. To understand how the globe went from a celebrated peace to the deadliest conflict in human history in just 2 decades, we have to look at the very treaty meant to stop it. In 1919, the victorious nations gathered to sign the Treaty of Versailles and establish the League of Nations. The explicit goal was diplomatic conflict resolution. This chart shows the severe restrictions imposed by the agreement. Germany's military, which stood at 13 million soldiers during the First World War, was forced down to a strict cap of just 100,000 men. Alongside military suppression came massive financial reparations. To pay off the billions demanded by the Allies, the German government printed money until the currency collapsed. By 1922, the economy was in a state of hyperinflation, completely wiping out the savings of everyday citizens. The agreement intended to secure lasting global harmony, engineered mass unemployment, poverty, and intense national humiliation. It built an environment of extreme desperation, perfectly calibrated for a radical voice to take hold. Towards the end of the First World War, a penniless, injured corporal lay recovering in a military hospital. When word reached him of the German surrender, he was overcome with despair and a bitter sense of betrayal. That soldier was Adolf Hitler. As he moved into politics, he realized that the intense economic anxiety and lingering anger over the peace treaty were highly effective tools. Following a failed armed uprising that landed him in prison, he wrote a manifesto detailing his political vision. He shifted away from violent revolution and instead campaigned through the democratic process, promising to tear up the Versailles restrictions and restore German dominance. The message resonated. By 1933, his party secured a massive electoral victory, and he became chancellor. By offering a specific target for their grievances, he commanded complete, fanatical devotion. The strict rules of the post-war order were now entirely at the mercy of a single leader, determined to expand his borders at any cost. The new chancellor immediately began violating international agreements. He ordered the secret expansion of the military from the allowed 100,000 troops to several million, and rapidly began manufacturing banned submarines, tanks, and a new air force. The military buildup culminated on September 1, 1939. German forces marched into Poland, prompting Britain and France to declare war. The world soon witnessed a brutal new military strategy: lightning-fast, highly coordinated assaults. France, which had held the line for 4 grueling years in the First World War, fell to German forces in just 44 days. As the military swept across Western Europe, formal alliances solidified. Germany, Italy, and Japan formed the Axis powers, dividing vast sections of Europe, Africa, and the Pacific into heavily militarized fascist territories. By completely overriding the established global boundaries, the Axis powers reached a point of apparent invincibility. They were driven by an ideology that demanded continuous, infinite expansion to survive. That momentum required immense resources and constant conquests. The empire's rapid growth structurally guaranteed its collision with the world's remaining heavyweights. Fearing future conflicts over territory, Hitler shattered a 10-year non-aggression pact he had signed with the Soviet Union. In 1941, he sent 4 million soldiers east to invade Russia. Later that same year, Japan sought to solidify its own dominance in the Pacific. They launched a devastating surprise attack against the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor. These twin assaults placed the Axis powers in an unwinnable position. They were now fighting an agonizing war of attrition in the freezing depths of the Soviet Union, while simultaneously facing the untouched, massive industrial output of the American military in the West. The ideology that built the empire could not accept limits. By attacking both global superpowers at once, the Axis leadership engineered their own inevitable defeat. The momentum fully reversed. The German army was decimated by the brutal Russian winter and fierce Soviet resistance. Meanwhile, 3 million Allied troops launched a massive invasion on the beaches of Normandy, pushing toward Germany from the opposite direction. As the territory shrank, the Axis leadership fractured. In April 1945, Italian dictator Benito Mussolini was captured and publicly executed. News of this deeply unsettled the German command. Hitler retreated underground, attempting to direct armies that no longer existed from a concrete bunker 50 feet below the streets of Berlin. Above him, Soviet forces completely surrounded the city. Determined to avoid Mussolini's public fate, he married his companion, Eva Braun, gave strict orders for his body to be burned, and took his own life on April 30th. Just 1 week after the architect of the war died in his subterranean hideout, the German military formally surrendered. The Third Reich ceased to exist. The conflict left a trail of unimaginable physical destruction. Major cities across the European continent were reduced entirely to rubble. The human cost extended far beyond the immediate casualties. Nearly 20 million children were left orphaned, facing severe poverty and starvation in the aftermath. The alliance that defeated the Axis powers immediately fractured. The Soviet Union and the United States divided Germany into distinct ideological zones, laying the foundation for decades of Cold War tension. The war's end forced a massive geopolitical restructuring. Weakened European powers were pushed to release their colonial holds in Asia and Africa, while the newly formed United Nations attempted to establish a durable framework for global diplomacy. The Second World War demonstrated exactly what happens when international grievances are answered with absolute aggression. The legacy of that destruction leaves humanity with an ongoing choice regarding what we pull from the ashes, whether we continue building weapons of war or finally cultivate a lasting peace.